Welcome everybody to Randomjeanc Reviews, This War of Mine. This War of Mine is a very unique game, not only on its gameplay standpoint, but in its development as well. The game is a depressing survival strategy roguelike war game, with realistic portrayals of the horrors of war and its victims. You play as the innocent civilians caught in the middle of the war, and you just have to survive in a war-torn city. This War of Mine was developed by 11-bit studios that developed this War of Mine for PC, mobile, and console devices, and was released last year on November 14th, 2014. This War of Mine currently retails for $19.99. Let's go into the horrors of war and experience this War of Mine to judge whether it's a memorable experience or one that's truly just another attempt at something greater. This War of Mine has no real story, but it does take place in the fictional city and country of Krasnavia Pogorin. There's a civil war happening in the game between government-supported soldiers and the rebel faction who call themselves the Visenyi Liberation Uprising. The developer said in an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun that the game is based heavily on the real-life events that took place from 1992 to 1996 during the siege of Sarajevo and the hardships the Bosnian civilians endured. However, each character you play as has a unique background story that gets resolved at the end of the game, but I will talk about that one later. Everything is nearly in grayscale, meaning mostly darker shades of blues and grays, and also black. Plenty of black. You would be hard-pressed to find anything of color here. Nothing is colorful or full of life, only death and misery prevail here, and it's fully represented here with a near complete lack of color. The graphics are very good and have a realistic vibe to them. They aren't exactly the best, but what it lacks in power it makes up in style and more than does an excellent job to represent its world. I like how the game has areas that are outside your peripheral and immediate vision grayed out with pencil-like cross-hatching patterns that add this extra layer of nearly hand-drawn qualities to the game. It's such a cool touch to add more style to the game in this way. The game uses photos of people to emphasize the unique qualities of each and every character of the 12 available to you, further making this conflict feel more realistic and have an actual toll on real-life humans, rather than just fictional video game characters. The music itself is a major element that also adds to the atmosphere and is one of the strongest elements the game has besides the actual visual style itself. Most of the soundtrack contains somber guitar compositions with piano and sometimes drums. The music is very unique and really memorable too. Despite none of them having words of any kind, it still manages to make the tracks memorable and recognizable almost instantly. And after listening to the soundtrack for a few hours, hell, even for a few minutes, you'll definitely start learning what kind of world these civilians are living in. The sound effects are great, emphasizing key elements like doors and footsteps, but as well as the background and distant sounds of bombs going off, and on top of gunshots and people screaming, as well as weather elements like rain and other various sounds are portrayed excellently. The gameplay is very simple. Your goal? Survive the war until an international peacekeeping force ends the war. This can take from 30 to 50 days. Each time you play, it's random and uncertain, so that's a really cool feature. The uncertainty of war even affects the length of the game. You start in a ruined apartment complex and you must scavenge for supplies. You select characters and you click to begin scavenging for food, water, machine parts, or any other essentials in your base of operations. Clear rubble, do what you can. Some areas will be inaccessible until you build a workbench to make tools like lockpicks to open doors or a crowbar to do the same. Be mindful of the clock because during the day is when the fighting is the most dangerous outside your base, so this is the time when you have to build and improve your base of operations. You can even build water collectors that somehow work where no rain is present. Game logic. You must pay careful attention to the needs of every survivor, as they can get hungry or sick, wounded, or even depressed. Each has varying levels. For example, if your character gets wounded, they have a small chance of improving if they get bandaged and sleep that day. With each passing day you bandage, that wound has a chance to improve. Each stage takes about a day to get better or worse. It all depends on your actions and some luck. Your characters can even get very depressed if they end up killing a civilian or robbing from innocent civilians. You can usually kill thugs without remorse though, since they are considered hostile. Civilians can get so depressed they become broken, where they don't want to move, eat, or do anything, and another character has to feed them, heal them, and take care of them. They can be given alcohol if their character likes to drink to recover, but then they will do whatever they please and become very drunk and very unproductive for a while. If they stay broken for too long, they may commit suicide or run away and take a share of your supplies, never to come back. On your first run, you start with 3 different characters: Pavle, Bruno, and Keisha. Each one has unique traits. For example, Keisha is the best at bartering when trading with merchants that randomly knock on your doors. Bruno is a great cook, so he can cook using less resources and create alcohol easier than any other character, while Pavle can run faster because he used to be an athletic player before the war. And I love how each character has different abilities and background stories. It all makes you feel more for each character and more connected as well. Remember, days only last around 4 to 5 minutes, so get what you need done quick. Once night arrives, you can send one survivor to scavenge nearby areas, and each playthrough has different locations available per playthrough. This is where the roguelike element comes into play. So don't forget you plug up your holes in the walls and guard, because sometimes you might get raided at night and characters can get injured if you don't have weapons to defend the house with. Each location on the map details what kind of supplies you'll find there, whether they are medical, food, materials, guns, and more. Also listed on the map are danger levels, from none to cautious, where some might be hostile, and to dangerous, where most people encountered will definitely shoot on sight. Once you set out, make sure to bring tools like shovels, crowbars, and handsaws if you want to access areas that are off limits without them. Remember, each one takes a slot. Like I mentioned before, there are 12 different characters. Some are much better than others in terms of usefulness. Some may be excellent at scavenging, like Marco, who has 15 backpack slots, versus Anton, who's just good at math and has no real war-ready skills. So he's slow, not very good at combat, and has only 8 backpack slots. Not everyone is going to be the most useful. You must remember that these civilians had normal lives before the war begun. Being stealthy around enemies offers some of the most nerve-wracking moments of the game and some of the best parts of the game too. You must sneak and move around enemies and other people if you want to steal from them at the cost of some morale, or fight for your life if they become hostile. You can use visual cues the game gives, like red circles indicating people and sometimes just rats. Also look through keyholes to get visuals of the next room and see if a guard is coming or not. Every action you take shows a ripple to indicate sound, and lateral actions like crowbars will nearly alert every room nearby. You will usually always be outnumbered too. You can hide in certain areas to lose enemies, or wait for the right moment to strike with a melee object and do a backstab move. Combat is very clunky, I must admit, and it's honestly not the best. Many times I found myself using the wrong item when I needed to use a gun, and causing my character to die pointlessly because I wanted to shoot instead of melee. You can unequip all weapons to not let this happen, but on default you equip the most powerful melee and range weapons, so it needs work. Some of the problems that do plague the game are very annoying. For example, you can't fast forward without skipping the entire day. Sometimes I just want to advance time for a few in-game hours, but I can't. I am forced to wait entirely or to skip the whole day, which is a pain. There's not much to do after a certain point. Once day 30 rolled in, I had pretty much done everything I could at my house. I built everything and upgraded everything I could. I really couldn't do anything new after that, while scavenging runs got more dangerous, which was adrenaline pumping and great. Everything was about the same at home. I wish there was a few more things to build, or that you survivors could gain XP in scavenging or XP in combat to see their skills slightly improve. I wish I could build Anton a better backpack so he can carry more than 8 items, or train him to not suck so much. You are only good for catching rats! Rats! Why are you good at catching rats only? Some mathematician you are. Overall, this war of mine honestly got to me. So many times when I had to kill or steal from innocent people, including old people, really got to me. Do I let my friend die from their wounds, or steal from the helpless old couple who are cowering in the bathroom? Not only did it impact me, but also my character. Thanks to that, Marco got so depressed he was nearly suicidal, and everyone else at the house acknowledged the fact too, questioning my motives, whether it was right or wrong. A really nice feature the developers put in the game is that you can create your own custom stories using the Steam Workshop, or download other people's stories for your game, with unique scenarios and gameplay differences. Sure, the game may suffer from clunky combat, unfair random number generators and chance, a lack of more content, or fast forwarding time. None of these are really game breakers to me. This war of mine offers a unique experience that not only leaves a lasting impression, but educates you on the horrors of the real world. While the price tag of $19.99 is somewhat high for the relatively short amount of content, luckily there are other survivors to play as. You want to see what happens to the survivors, and when you outlast the war, you will see the conclusion of their stories and how they all end. Some are sad, some are not. It all depends on the characters. Another thing this war of mine likes to do is pelt you with your actions and decisions taken over the course of the playthrough. For example, when I helped those kids who needed medicine, or when I helped a civilian out of rubble, and other various events that took place in my playthrough. For all those reasons stated, I have decided to give this war of mine a 8.5. Great game. And out of 13,264 reviews, 95% have rated this war of mine positive. And hey, did you know the developers caught people pirating the game? And instead of cracking down on piracy, they posted a bunch of game keys for free and told the pirates who can't buy the game, it's okay, we know life, and that sometimes it's just not possible, referring to those who can't buy the game. I mean, wow, that's insane. They won the internet for that day, and I am glad to know their 2 years of hard work and money paid off after just 2 days of release. Props to them. I applaud to them. Anywho, thank you for watching. I know this episode was light on humor, but I just didn't want to make light of horrible real-life catastrophes, so forgive me for that. I appreciate your support and helping me almost reach 100 submarine sandwiches. I mean subs. I am currently at 97 subs. It may go up or down, but I will do a 100 subs announcement and mini special. If you want to see my last review of Fallout 4 that has that sexy companion Piper, or click on my Kingdom review, another great indie game. Thank you all for watching. This is Randomjeanc, signing off.